Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the work session tonight. This is June 10th, and we're going to roll downhill tonight. We'll have a proclamation of retirement and some mayor's awards. Starting off with number 3, it'll be a public hearing, consideration of proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $8,176,000. Yes, sir. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, Stephanie gave me the thumbs up.
Rich has got a new toy here.
We're also, we are not televised tonight. That is correct, Steph? That we won't? We are not streaming live tonight, so you can go on the website. So for those that...
Do you want a quick mic check? Because mine's really loud.
Okay, got a mic check, everybody?
Hi.
Everybody at the same time?
Hola. Yeah. Everyone, 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good, I think.
Okay. Just going to be handling that, James, or...
So, $8,176,000. This is a SRF loan for the Locust Basin sewer or CSO elimination project. We got this has a significant amount of engineering piece or component that goes into it. Our planning and design expenses were $1.5 million, inclusive of doing the full Mazel Basin. Construction estimated at about $6.2 million. Engineering fees yet to be done. We left in there $400,000 and a contingency of $600,000. It's an overall project. I think that puts that at $8.7 million in that neighborhood. We have $600,000 of CDBG funds to go towards this project. The remainder, the $8,176,000, would be an SRF loan paid back over 20 years. I think it's 2% financing that in that neighborhood that these are financed at, and they'll be paid for out of sewer funds, probably similar to the SRF funds that we're doing now, the state revolving loan funds that we're doing now on other combined sewer projects. We are paying for that a combination of the stormwater fees and the sewer fees, and that will likely be what happens in the future. This resolution will authorize entering into a loan agreement with the state, or the SRF program.
Okay.
Good. You guys good?
Yep.
Okay, number 4 is a resolution approving the final plat of first addition to Beam Subdivision. Mr. Tisley.
This is a 2-lot subdivision located just outside the city limits off of Mill Dam Road, just north of off of Highway 99, kind of across from the golf course. They previously had subdivided this and are wanting to subdivide this lot further into 2 separate lots, primarily for flood insurance purposes, so that only one of the lots needs to be in the flood zone. Does meet our zoning requirements for lot size, is in the 2-mile area, so that's why we have review, but also has to have county approval, which they're going to do their review at the same time. But no issues on our end, and does meet our classification as a minor subdivision, less than 3 lots with no infrastructure.
Guys?
Any questions?
No questions?
Okay. Number 5 is a resolution approving FY 217 Tiger Grant Agreement. Mr. McGregor.
Good evening. I kind of alluded to it last week with the agreement with Vinsher and Kim for the advanced construction. We have the Tiger Grant Agreement in front of us. It's taken about a year to get this in place. There's a lot that goes into it between dates for different engineering kind of thresholds with NEPA, preliminary design, things that have to go through the DOT as they will oversee this project. So there's dollar figures in there as well, kind of used from the application to give us an idea on what that is. They're not set in stone on what we spend money on, but it's just a kind of an idea on what we're going to do. The difficult part is probably some of the dates that we agreed to. We started this process a year ago. They did bump back some of the dates, knowing that they were the reason why we couldn't get some of those accomplished, because until you get that agreement in place, you can't start engineering, which means that those dates don't get any closer to getting accomplished. So with the advanced construction, though, we were able to start, and now with this in place, we should be full steam ahead on Tiger.
What was the targeted start date for that, Nick? Did we know? Do we know?
We already have advanced construction contract in place, so we've already started some work. But the first date, I think, was April 2020, which is going to be kind of tough to do, but
Okay.
We're confident if we've hired the right engineering firm, they'll get it done though.
If only we knew one.
You're
right?
welcome.
And Nick, when's the steering committee going to get back together? And will they drive a lot of the?
I'm going to let them run kind
Okay.
of some of that conversation on kind of when they're ready. A lot of it's been, the biggest thing is the environmental impacts. You have to get through all those hoops, all the SHPO hoops. You have to, what was the other thing that we had to get started? They've done a lot of survey work, so you'll probably see something pretty soon shortly, is my guess.
Okay.
You guys good?
I'm good. That's not me.
Right on. Which brings us to number 6, resolution authorizing fund transfers for the fiscal year 2019. Steph?
So in your packet was a resolution. This is a new law that was effective mid-April. So basically, the administrative board through the state of Iowa enacted this administrative code law that they want all the resolutions or interfund transfers that are happening to be approved by council resolution. So basically what we've done in the past is we've had all the transfers in our budget. So you've been approving them, but it's not a separate resolution. It's just been, you can go to our budget and see all our scheduled transfers. So basically, since this law was done in between fiscal years, we still need to do our second half transfers for FY19, which I'll be making them in the next couple weeks. So in the Exhibit A, it's going to show you all the transfers we do. To make it more transparent, you needed to show the fund that it was coming from, where it's going, and the reason why we're doing the transfer. So it's 3 pages of transfers. Again, there's nothing out of the ordinary. These are transfers that we already had budgeted. These amounts, though, are for just this fiscal year 19. Once we get to July, I'll come back with another resolutions for our FY20 transfers, and that will be for the whole year. So as long as I don't go over any of these transfer amounts, I won't need to come back every single time I do a transfer.
Right on.
It's kind of like an up to amount. But there could be a time where, maybe we've estimated local option sales tax too low, which that'll be a good thing. Hotel motel too low, then we'll want to get that transfer up to where that we need to make. So
Is this one of those things where we have to read it 3 times for it to go through?
no.
No?
No.
Okay, good.
You guys will approve it next Monday, and then I'll make the journal entry before the end of the year. So, but if you do have any questions as you read through my explanation, you can always reach out to me, or if anybody out in the public has any questions.
Will we see these transfers on the same occurrence that we'll see the budget then as well?
No, we'll do the transfer resolution after the budget.
So
Is it at the same frequency or just?
you're gonna see more of these. So like, right now, you're seeing this one, example, the first one, employee benefits, the 1.35 million. That's an up to amount for what you anticipate being what's left
Yes.
to transfer. That you would see on an annual basis. But we're gonna have other things, say engineering fees, which
Those are
aren't
not
included in
transfers.
this. Oh,
They're revenues and expenses.
because you're gonna write a check. We're gonna get around
No, we've always done that. We
to,
record the revenue, and it's an expense in the.
it shows it that way.
So that's different. Transfers where we've budgeted to transfer the money to one fund to another.
Okay.
Some of the other ones, though, the trust and agency funds, where we're not anticipating having them occur, will occur during the course of the year where it comes up. For example, from library trust, if you had something that you were transferring to cover expenditures in library, it would be there.
Right.
There are other ones that occurs during the course of the year, and it's just, you're gonna see these on an ongoing basis, one time primarily, but you'll have others that occur
Yeah, some
during
will
the course
pop
of
up
the year.
through the year.
Okay,
You good?
I'm good.
Thank you, Steph. Which brings us to the proposed consent agenda. Number 1 is a resolution approving nuisance abatements for various properties. Guys, we good? Mm-hmm. Number 2 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of quitclaim deed from Grow Greater Burlington, Inc.
This resolution will approve a quitclaim deed for 2 parcels associated with the RISE grant project around near the Recplex for Hinkle Drive and the extension of West Burlington Avenue. $2 to simply transact that parcel.
Couldn't get a better price. Okay.
Good. Number 3 is resolution regarding Burlington Urban Service, Bus, and Ragbrai.
So there's no resolution, nor is there a memo in there, mostly because I didn't know how to write it. With Ragbrai coming, Burlington Urban Service will be involved along with Southeast Iowa Bus as well as the Burlington Community School District. In order for the Burlington Urban Service to operate within its hours, we need to extend them. We have to do some things so that we don't have to issue a contract for Ragbrai to operate out of our normal operating hours. So bus will operate that evening of Ragbrai until approximately 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and our end of operation now is at 5 o'clock. The other thing that we would put in there, or I suggest that we put in there to avoid kind of the transaction, is the public, anytime you have public ridership, you need to charge them an equal basis across the board. And if you have Ragbrai customers on there, they're not paying for those bus rides. So I've suggested that we offer, free Friday in July. Most of our fare revenue is made off of monthly passes or annual passes or 6-month passes. It's not, it doesn't amount to that much of daily coin drops. And we will, with 20,000 people in town, with $8,000 to $10,000 or 8,000 to 10,000 riders in town, we're going to generate a ton of rides that day. And from a transaction standpoint, it makes it simpler to not charge anything for the rides.
Okay.
So if there's any disagreement with that, I guess now would be the time before.
Do those count toward our rides total
They
at
do.
the end of the year?
Correct.
So it really, in the end, helps us.
It does.
Okay.
I
It's
think
not
some, I'm sorry.
It's not a
Sometimes
dollar
they
for
have-
dollar match of what you
Yeah.
bring in, but it does definitely help.
Okay.
I think sometimes they have a tip bucket and the
Correct.
riders will give the driver something.
Good? Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
Number 4 is a resolution approving side agreement between CWA Local 7176 and the City of Burlington. Steph?
Okay, so the police are recruiting for some more employees, and this was a plan they wanted to put in place to see if maybe we could attract an officer that might already be certified, which means we don't have to send them to the academy and pay their training expense. They really could just come on board and hit the streets. So this agreement is with the union. They've approved it. You can see Bonnie's signatures here. That if we hire somebody that is certified, we can bring them in at a different step level. We can offer them a little more vacation than what's in the contract currently. Right now, somebody would have to come in at the bottom, which is, no one's going to consider coming in at the bottom if they have 10 years experience with another department. So we're just trying to open up the field.
Right on.
To get some more candidates. Like I said, the unions are fine with it. This is what we're advertising, a signing bonus too. And that signing bonus, I think, is about half of what we would pay for training. Is that correct?
That's just
The academy expense that we would save, so.
Okay.
How do you,
That's kinda
how
where
do
they
you,
came up with.
how do you do that signing bonus? I assume it's after a year or so, something like that?
Yeah, that's what it says, 12-month probationary. Yep, they'd have to
I
be
guess I
on
didn't catch that.
for 12
Oh,
months.
there it is, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Council, we good?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, all right, good deal. All right, we have a public hearing set for July 1st, 2019 as consideration of plans and specs for the 2019 Dankport Park Pool Improvement Project. Tisdale.
It's just setting date for hearing, bringing back with a couple minor modifications.
B's consideration of an encroachment agreement with Y&J Properties LLC for encroachment into city right-of-way adjacent to 425 Valley Street, Burlington, Iowa. Want to say anything on that? Tisdale. Okay. All right, discussion items. The first one is a presentation of Rain or Shine Canopy.
Good evening. Mike Arnold, 320 Valley Street, cow lofts. I own it and live there. Today we're here to present you a concept of potentially future development on the riverfront between the Port of Burlington and the Memorial Auditorium. Parking in the area between the port and the Memorial Auditorium is critical. And it's critical to the utilization of the events that we hold down there. And I think anyone who's paid much attention knows that that lot is full when there's something going on. And the planned events that we have, they're in the future. And you're dealing with rain. And the rain is pretty much, the best laid plans are only as good as the weather. And we often deal with bad weather. And because of the potential for flooding in years past, 7 to 8 months, you could have a flood. Thankfully today, that's being protected. And so we're excited about being able to present a plan, and like I said, it's a concept that we think would have some merit. And whether that's, in the future a little bit, really doesn't matter. We just think that the planned project is worth taking a good hard look at. Because I know I've been over many years, somebody comes up with a plan and, it wipes out the parking. You can't do that. I understand that's the lowest use of the riverfront is parking. I agree with that. But you can't do that when you got a Memorial Auditorium and activities going on there. And we believe that it's, we should start planning now. The utilization and the enjoyment and potentially additional revenue from this, I don't know what it is. And I think that takes some time, some study. And we're not here to put any pressure. We understand what has happened on the riverfront. Right now, the cleanup and whatever, that's something we're going to work through. That's just what we have to do as a city. And we also understand that much of the Tiger Grant has been allocated. And with the recent problems of flooding and that require immediate attention. But we'd like for you to take a good hard look at the concept and whether it's doable now or doable later. I think it's important because it addresses the issues that we haven't done in the past. So Bob Brick, he's worked on this for a number of years. And
Brick builds Burlington.
Yeah.
That's good.
And I'm only here to kind of present it because Bob's done all the work, and I want to make sure he gets the credit. Bob? Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks.
Hi, Bob.
I want you to know I called Mike, the first guy that looked this print over, and I put him on the committee. And he's been a good committeeman. But anyway, this committee is here to investigate the possibilities of further improving our downtown and riverfront with phase 2. Now you'll wonder what the heck phase 1 was. If you remember when the wind came and the parts of the stage blew off and hit a little kid, and we couldn't get insurance, we couldn't do this, that, or the other thing for a number of months and years. All that went away finally when the Savior came along, and the Savior was our port of Burlington, just sitting there idle. And it took care of all the things that needed to be taken care of. And we're hoping to kind of do the same thing with this. And that is out of the way now. I mean, we got two big problems, and one of them has already been taken care of, phase one. Phase two is the one that I've often thought we're doing stuff for everybody except the guys that are being paid, or that are paying for all the events, and that's the general public, the crowd. And we see that happening all the time. One of the biggest problem was solved with the first in phase, but we all know how unpredictable the weatherman is, and we know that he is really got a lot of pride in spoiling a day or an evening plans with rain, or believe it, he likes to watch folks leaving events as he takes pride in empty seats. I mean, and you can see that down there, and it's no guarantee. And that's what we're trying to do is give everybody a guarantee that they're going to see something. They won't have to worry about going home and watching TV. I think that this could be done real easy. What this committee is doing is investigating the structural parts of one of these canopies that open and close automatically. You don't need it closed with the sun out. You know, that's about the length from the port to the turn in front of the auditorium. That's about 325, 330 feet long, and probably about 160 wide or something like that. And it goes in sections. It can do a variety of things. We're in the process of getting numbers, and we just didn't know exactly where to start, so we're here letting you know what we're doing. If you don't want us to do it, tell us. But we think that in a year or two, see, this phase two was supposed to happen right after phase one, and that was 35 years ago, folks. You know, we're past our stage of blessings, and the way we look at it is it's time to move on. Another big positive of phase two is that it can be done and paid for in stages. However, the biggest phase two is the protection that they'd have when the weather isn't cooperating. After all, it's the crowds that's paying the bills for everything that happens, and they are the ones who should be pampered. We feel the facility needs activity 3 to 4 times a week instead of once a year for 3 or 4 days, as the Steamboat Days does. And it should become citywide possibility of letting all organizations know about it, and not only just our local town associations. We have more assets in our downtown on the riverfront than any other town our size. And I wish you'd take a look at that front page of facts on the cover page and read that, and the one on the cover. There you go.
Got it.
Yeah. Would you read that for me?
Sure. A little bit about downtown Burlington, a community of approximately 30,000 people. Burlington downtown sets apart North Hill and South Hill bluffs overlooking the Mississippi River. From these vantage points, the downtown reminds residents and travelers alike that they may be in Europe. Main Street of Iowa suggests that Burlington's downtown is a treasure chest of Iowa when the abundance of steeples and spires is added to the unique architecture of every building. The proud heritage of this community's downtown, surrounded by parks, churches, and the Great River Bridge, sets the stage for one of the most beautiful skyscrapes around. The community with Downtown Partners, Inc., Main Street, and many volunteers continues to make giant strides with this historic treasure. Burlington Downtown's infrastructure is also one of the finest and supports new upper-story living, which is bringing 3 to 5 times the amount of taxes to our community while saving buildings from deterioration with revitalization. Other downtown new improvements include the new Great River Bridge, a new library, and filling the vacant hospital building now known as the River Park Place, with Chamber of Commerce as its anchor.
Thank you. That's all I have. If you have got any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I have a few. What's it gonna cost? What's this gonna cost?
That's what we're looking up right now.
Okay.
We were told it would be somewhere under 2 million.
Okay. Does the Canopy have the ability to absorb a heavy rain event?
I'm sorry.
Does it have the ability to absorb a heavy rain event?
Well,
Which
that's-
means,
yes, definitely.
so if there's a torrential downpour,
Yeah.
the people underneath of it stay dry?
That's right.
Okay.
That's the whole idea of this.
What would the
If you
light,
look at those cables, how many cables there are there and the strength.
okay.
That's what it's all about.
And then, the city would maintain it, I'm assuming. Any idea what maintenance costs would be
No,
annually?
we don't have any of those figures.
Okay. And then any idea what the life of the fabric would be?
I was told 20 years.
Okay. That's all my questions.
And do you know what replacement, are you gonna be able to get those figures too, of like replacement of what it's going to be to maintain, like what the cost of for the
No,
cover?
we don't have any of those figures.
No, I know you don't now, I'm saying down the road, you know,
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna wanna see some of
Trying
that
to give
stuff,
you
but
everything you want,
you bet.
because we need to know what that is too.
I love the concept personally. I think you guys have it right. I think that's the mindset that we do. We want to take care of the people down there, and I never would have thought or dreamed that big, but I like when people go big or stay home. And you guys decided to go big on this one. I'd love to see what comes of this, but I don't have any issue of anybody moving forward on that. I'd like to.
You can think of all the things that could happen in a big place like that. I mean, you could have home shows, boat shows, car shows, everything that we don't have a place for now.
Anybody else?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
And who all came down with you, Bob? Who's all with you? Jim? Okay, you three in the front row. Thank you guys for coming down and for the hard work.
There's about 26 people on this committee.
Yeah, it's listed in there.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Our second discussion item is integrated planning.
I just want to introduce the topic and the person who'd be speaking mostly. Integrated planning started when when the city received technical assistance grant, probably a year and a half or 2 years ago, from the EPA to do integrated planning type work. And since then, we have kind of carried it on with Vinscher and Kim, and then also Dustin Miller from NIMaster to assist with this. Leah will get into it, but we're hoping to use this kind of as a product to go to the DNR and renegotiate our consent order to something more favorable for the city of Burlington. But Leo is going to come up and speak, and I'm going to actually pass out some of the materials for him.
Thank you. Leo Foley, Vinscher and Kim. The integrated plan. So what we did primarily is we took what the EPA and their contractor did, and we took the framework and then tried to make it into a real document for Burlington. And really the intent of the real document is like Nick just mentioned. Primary thing, renegotiate your administrative order. And your administrative order basically said they would like to see complete sewer separation in all of your basins. Do you remember what the date is? 2025. And we were saying that's unattainable. It's not a wise use of dollars. And so what the state's saying is if it's not a wise use of dollars, give us something better. Give us something else. And integrated planning is something we've been talking about in this field for 20 years. I think there's one done in the state of Iowa, but all of a sudden it's come to the forefront. And a lot of people are jumping on board. Davenport is right behind you, trying to create this document for the same reasons. And let's go to that. So this is just a cover. Let me just tell you where we're at. We have a completed document that we have sent to your staff, but this is a draft. Dustin Miller's the attorney. He's looking this over. And then probably within the end of the month, it would go to the DNR as a draft along with the US EPA and have them review. You go to the next one. Okay. Couple of things just to start out with. What are the overarching goals of this program? And the overarching goals are basically protect public health, water quality, and that's the big word everybody wants to hear is what are you doing for water quality? So what we're saying is what happened to you on the river, that's not good for water quality. And that's not a sewer, maybe not a sewer separation problem, but it's huge in terms of water quality. So that would be prioritized as something you should be paying attention to. It's that simple is what this report's saying. Clean Water Act requirements. We're not skipping any of them. We're not trying to get around them. We're not trying to say Burlington will spend less money because that's the kind of stuff they don't want to hear. What they want to hear is that you're going to spend money, but you're going to maybe spend it in a different prioritized manner. And who's going to prioritize? And what our argument is the best people to prioritize Burlington's money is the city of Burlington. And it's not good coming from the US EPA or even the governor's office or the state DNR. Right on. And they agree. They're not arguing. They're just saying, give us a good product. That third point, community oriented, that's a big deal. They want you to get out. They want you to tell the citizens, why are you spending the money? Where are you spending the money? Why are you doing these green infrastructure projects that some people they don't make any sense to? Others it really makes sense. So they want that community input. And then innovative technologies. They've been saying it forever, but they've kind of pigeonholed you. They've forced you not to be able to do it. Now they're trying to open that door. East Coast, of course, is taking the lead. So they're doing a lot of this innovative type things. And there's a lot of money around from these big corporations for big cities. Can Burlington drag in some of that money? We're hoping so. Next one, plan highlights. Like I said, it's going to allow you to prioritize your work for the best water quality benefits. Does not force separation. Includes forming a project review committee that's mostly your staff to review the prioritization every year. They would make recommendations to the city manager. City manager comes to you and says, this is what we've done and this is what we've decided. We provided you a spreadsheet that shows where the first thoughts for where the money's going to be spent. And as you can see, this is a huge number, $142 million in projects over 20 years. I'm not saying all those projects are down to the final number. I know some of the numbers are not 100% yet, but the magnitude is what we're trying to get across. So if you go to the next spreadsheet, and I know these didn't come out well, so I handed them out. But the intent here is to kind of show projects by year, and then if you go all the way over, you'll see how you're funding them. The state doesn't care how you're getting the money. So it doesn't have to come from Burlington. If you can use sales tax money, if that would be an option, they don't mind. If you can use Tiger money, then you can use that Tiger money. So that $140 million had the sales tax money in there, had the Tiger money in there. It's adding it all up and putting it in what we thought initially was the best prioritization to do it in. And so this is all by year. We have a few more things. We didn't finish the end of it yet by saying we put external funding sources. Eventually, I'm sure your budgeteer people, your bonding people are going to say, what are you using for SRF? because now you're talking about a 20-year payback, how much dollars per year, and that's not all worked out. These are costs for projects. Basically, what is the cost of the project? And then there's a little bit on where are you getting majority of the money. And we started that process out. People haven't had a ton of time to look at that, so we know this is gonna change. We have been doing this in Davenport for about 5, maybe 8 years right now. Almost the same thing. This spreadsheet that DNR blessed when we were revising their administrative order, and they're very good about letting us change it. Every year we change it and update it. What they want to see is every year, I think Jesse has to do it now, they want to see a progress report. What have you done? Why did you change it? What kind of things are, they have not questioned us. I mean, not questioned us. As long as we're moving forward in the right direction, they like it. So I think this is a great way for you to get a handle on your funds, and I think it's gonna show progress, and it's really gonna help the community, tremendous amount. So what we did is we took, VMK had a pretty good handle on some of your flood mitigation, some of your stormwater projects. We didn't, Howard R. Green did a master plan, I think you might have heard about it recently. Most of the numbers from theirs, we took their top priority projects and just put them with help with your staff, and we put them into this thing. We didn't get too much further. I tried to just focus on 20 years, truthfully. 10 years is probably plenty, but the DNR wants to see 20. So I hit hard onto the what are we gonna do in that first 20-year period. So that's the, kind of in a nutshell, what we did. Can you go to the next one? Okay, so the next one is some of the prioritized projects were the flood wall and flood mitigation, and where are we going on the next steps? And Nick wanted me to touch base on that one. So the phase we're working on right now is, as you can see before it broke, that upstream HESCO barrier and the downstream HESCO barriers are what we're working on. And we've got the survey done, we've made initial conversations with the railroad for structural for the railroad contract, for the railroad closures. We have not got final designs. So if you looked at this schedule, the next page is just a one-page one, and it's cut and paste right out of the bigger one. But it's more you can get your hands on it. So you can see prior to 2019, what did we spend on phase 5? A little over $7 million. Then we go to 2019, we're in the middle right now of designing your phase 6 improvements. Hopefully, in 2020, those phase 6 improvements are started for construction, and that includes going to the railroad closures on both of them, on both sides. So having a railroad closure plus the HESCO, not the HESCO barriers, but some kind of a removable wall we're still working on. Now that we have the Tiger grant, it's gonna work perfect. We can fit in the new parking lots, how the parking lots would fit, do they need to be reconfigured, how do they work with removable walls. I think we're gonna have a really nice situation. I think, Councilman, you asked about when are we gonna start on getting that committee back together, and I think very shortly, because this work, along with the Tiger work, we're hoping to bind it together so that we have the same common themes. Right. So if you're doing light posts, the light posts all fit together. Everything starts to architecturally look right together. So after we're done with that, 2021, then we start on the pump stations. And we had 2 big pump stations to put in there, and that was about a $4.7 million phase. After that phase, somewhere around 2024, we would go in, and this is an interesting one because there's a lot of, I reconfigured this, it's written wrong here. It has a lot of the parking and streets involved with that one, the green infrastructure part of the flood mitigation. So again, that's gonna fit very well with the Tiger grant. And then the last phase is the wastewater treatment plant, and that wastewater treatment plant, again, a phase of about $3 million. The walls there are fairly high. Don, did you get flooded this year? Not yet. Didn't go over.
Not yet.
So he's got a lot of walls, but what we had is we were gonna tie into some of them and make them just a little bit higher, so the costs aren't quite as high, I know he's got a pump station project. We put some money in there, about $1 million, whether that's enough to, but we've got to look at the Howard R. Green money and try to bond our money together. So that's kind of the game plan of where we're at, where we're working. We've had a little problem with the sales tax money not being as high as we wanted, but that's why we wanted to get it all down on this sheet so everybody could see what was anticipated. That's all I had, unless people have questions.
Council, questions? Jeff Sullivan.
So this year, sales tax, we've now had 2 payments come in, and we are at half of this year's amount. So we're right on track for this year.
That's good. That's very good.
And, you know, some of that is probably doing the collection, the online collection, I'm sure had an impact on that, but it also probably speaks to some rebound that's occurred, and that would reflect or match what's happened with hotel motel tax collections. Those have been up this year as well. When our staff, Nick and Jesse primarily, were working with the EPA contractor on the integrated plan, how much of the focus was on topics other than stormwater? 0. The concept of integrated planning is taking a holistic approach to what are the community needs. Sewer infrastructure, water infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, flood improvements, along with those stormwater ideas that they were looking at for green infrastructure. But what the EPA was focused on was not that. We took a base document that they gave us, and this has been something where we've transitioned it to try to say, let's take a look at a holistic picture. Make sure that as funding agencies are looking at what they're mandating on us, that they are taking into account not their specific area and its impact on us, but what is the impact of everything that we have to do. If you go through the list of items that are on there, we are mandated, and it's been pointed out, to do the MASL work by 2025. Look how many of the projects on here are MASL. Hardly any of them.
Hardly any.
Locust, the one that we're currently in construction. The other ones, we're saying they're priorities, but they are not on a 20-year basis. We've had so many other things that need to be addressed that we need to get these other things hit first. We don't know whether the DNR is going to buy into this.
I have not seen DNR walk away from this kind of plan. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but the attorney that we're working with, Dustin Miller,
He's got some good relationships.
He's very tight with these guys. V&K have worked with them a lot of times. As long as you're willing to go through this effort and give it to them, I think they're gonna say yes. I'd be absolutely shocked if they don't.
I actually had the opportunity to sit down with Dustin up at Southeast Iowa Days about 2.5 months ago. He's a sharp guy, and he was talking up this plan quite a bit. So I have confidence in whatever it is he feels comfortable doing.
He and I and Jim have met with the DNR one time. I've met with them 2 or 3 other times and told them what we're doing, and I'm getting nothing but thumbs up.
Good.
One thing to note out of it, and you addressed it, you got 140 million, 120 million of work to do over 20 years. And not all of it's in the sewer system, but this has a significant amount of money still being spent in the sewer side. We're just trying to get it, if we're going to be on a course where we're doing a lot of work, let's get it into areas that benefit us on a holistic basis, not just in one key pigeonholed area. So this doesn't get us out of work. This just says, let's make sure that we have it in the right prioritization order.
Leo, one question I have is, let's assume for a second funds were to become available on a quicker schedule. Are these things that can be done on top of each other, or do these all have to be done in this order to facilitate downstream? Okay.
Very little of these projects are based on the other. You know, let's just say you came up with more sales tax money and the state would allow you to do 2 of these flood mitigation projects at one time. I think we could do that easily.
Some of the things that would need to be addressed. The only one that I can think of off the top of my head is from Don's perspective, you can't upgrade the size of 14th Street lift station until you get the headworks at the plant to be able to accommodate that flow to the plant. But even that, you think you could put some restrictions on what you put flowing to the plant. But yeah, a lot of these are things that are done throughout the system in a way that they're hitting needs that are at diverse locations in our community. So yeah, they can be done on.
Davenport has a interceptor that can get 200 million gallons a day to their wastewater treatment plant, but the system to get it there can only get 100 million gallons a day. So they've got some of those same problems. They're like, whoa, you've got to put gates in, and because we can't take that flow right now.
One question I've got for you, Jim, is does this plan allow us to continue to put money into our roads at a rate that we need to be able to do it?
So we didn't build in on a 20-year basis what we're putting into roads. You have some road projects
Typically
listed in
roads
here.
that we were going to put green infrastructure with. If we were going to put green infrastructure together with them, we tried to put them in.
So otherwise, it doesn't impact that. The one impact that I will say, out of the work that's being done in the sewer side, the majority of that is we modeled being paid for out of sewer revenues.
There's a lot of road work in there as well. When we tear out a street to put it in sewer, we're putting the road
The
back.
locust will have some road work that gets done with it. But the others, the CSO work, that's 30 years out.
But this doesn't negatively affect Nick's 5-year road plan
No.
or anything in the CIP
No, but
that's projected to be able to.
we are looking at doing, we didn't identify which project, but we did put in here using some TIF funds to make this work. So there is some direction of, I think the one that makes the most sense is the lift station, the Market Street lift station project, just because of its impact on the community. But we just can't fund all the work that needs done in the sewer side. And that's trying to figure out what's the right compromise. And what I would say is that means that is something that is going to be funded with a non-sewer revenue, and that is a competing interest with streets or other alternative things that could be done with that TIF financing.
If FEMA comes through with money because of these floods, which they're almost certain to, we need to be front and center looking for that money for things in the sanitary arena.
Are they going to want to see project ready or shovel-ready projects?
They hate that term's not a term anymore anybody wants to hear because of the different administrations. But yes, I think what you're saying, they want to see that you can move fast on projects.
That's something that we talked about even with if we did move forward with the idea of doing a new bridge at Cascade, they want to see that you've got the plan in place for getting that accomplished.
And they want to make sure the environmental and historical
Yes.
are done. I don't think you have to have designs done, but they don't want you to get hung, they know you can get hung up for a year or two on environmental and historical. That's what, on your Tiger grant, even though we're not supposed to be spending money, we've been very concerned on how that's gonna work. And I think we've got some good plans, but it's for the same purposes.
Lee,
That's a good plan.
Any other
Thank you.
questions on that?
No.
you guys good?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, nice job.
Yeah, we
So-
appreciate your work.
Is
Thanks,
this
Leo.
one that
Always
we're
nice to see
looking, are we looking to approve the draft on this for next week? So that'll be added to the resolution approving the and it'll be listed as a draft because we're gonna be taking the draft to the DNR and it's seeking their approval. And then I assume that we would then look to move forward a final copy if they give us their blessing on that.
Okay.
All right.
Third discussion item is flood wall phase 6.
I think that he covered that.
Yeah, he
That
just
was,
did that.
he just did it together.
So Nick's gonna talk.
I just wanted to say, the reason why I had this added to the agenda was just because of everything that's happened down at the riverfront. I wanted people to know that we are in the works to get the next phase done, which will, tie off where most of the HESCO work is with structure for next year's construction.
Nick, I have a question for you. And I wasn't here last week to be able to ask this question, but my question is, if the water goes down again and we start the cleanup process, do we have enough HESCOs on hand to be able to reconstruct the wall the way that it needs to be done in the event that we get another 24/7 crest in the middle of August when we've got people working in the auditorium, working in the port to do cleanup.
I don't want you to wish upon this, but
But
I understand what you're
Are we
saying.
prepping for that?
We have approximately 180 HESCOs on hand, which would get us all but maybe to Main Street.
We have
we're able to, we saved a lot of what we had on Main and a lot of Market, but everything else, having the contaminated waters, you know,
Yeah.
the raw sewage on it, all those have to be disposed.
Are we gonna see another request for HESCO orders here in the next couple of weeks?
Not right now.
months?
We have a local firm that's willing to let us use their HESCOs. So depending on as need, we have access to additional HESCOs from someone who isn't anticipating needing them themselves.
So we have the ability to do what we just recently did?
Correct.
Okay.
We haven't negotiated a price on that, but.
Okay. Brings us to our last discussion item, Tama Building CDBG project, Doug Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Doug Wells. I wanted to start and do a quick update on the demolition. We've had good momentum, I think, in the last 5 or 6 weeks on the demolition. And the demolition contractor, with the help of Myers Construction, and I have representatives present from Myers Construction who have helped us a lot in organizing regular meetings with the demolition contractor. But in a nutshell, the debris removal, the bulk of it is scheduled to be out Friday, and we feel there's another week of cleanup after that, so a week from Friday. And then right on top of that, they're going to start the fill process. We retained Klinger Associates to do soil engineering and work with us. They've identified soil fill material that's suitable to go back in the hole. Our demolition contractors arranged for that, and he's the party doing the fill and the compaction. And then as we bring that fill back in that opening that is and was the basement, it'll be compacted appropriately so any sort of building can go on top of it. And 3rd Street parking was opened up, I believe, today, and the fence pulled back. We have chain link fence around the project because of the basement opening. Some of the heights are about 11 feet from the edge of the sidewalk down to the bottom of the basement slab. Our construction team managers, Myers Construction, has conducted weekly meetings, and they've involved the city, and there's been discussions regarding how we're capping off utilities and just coordinating all those parts and pieces. So that has been our top priority, to aggressively get the material removed and the grade brought back up to the sidewalks. So when the fill is complete, we're pretty close to level with the top of the foundation walls. And we're also seeing that the existing foundation walls are serving temporarily as good retaining walls, holding the earth material back so the sidewalks aren't coming down. And that all seems very stable, and we're happy about that. So that's kind of one chapter. Another chapter is we've had ongoing discussions with Iowa Economic Development Authority, Ann Schmid, who has been extremely helpful. And we've put together an overall submission process and time frame, and they want us to have the application in on September 30th. We're going to have it in well before that. However, they have offered to sit down with us and review a draft of the application. I want to take them up on that. And So what's happening, we did have a CDBG grant for the project of $3 million, and there was an additional $200,000 that was for water quality. They intend to look at it all again as a new project. And to back up slightly, as some insurance proceeds were received, we returned all the money we borrowed from the state to Iowa Economic Development Authority. And so we have satisfied the money we borrowed has been returned to them. So they're looking at our application as an individual exercise. So it's, for us to do the necessary application and get it back. And that's looking promising, and I'm very optimistic about that.
Good.
And Eric's been, Tisland's been helpful in that we're coordinating dates for the council to set a hearing date. And I'm planning on getting back to him on the 13th. Between now and the 13th, I'll meet with the IEDA and coordinate the community development application. And then the question is whether we get it to you soon enough to review it on July 1st, or that would be our early date. Our late date would be July 15th. And so what that means is we finish putting it together, review it, and get it to Eric to review. And anything I'm missing on that, Eric?
We just wanted to have that application to review before we set the hearing date, so just trying to schedule that. But maybe just describe the grant is through the city, and then you'd be the subrecipient, so it's actually the city applying for these funds, and then historic, so that's why we want to make sure we review it before it actually goes off, and you're working very closely with IEDA, so. Okay.
And then I wanted to quickly go through, I have prints of this design that I'd be happy to leave with you. But first, if we could start with that one. So we're looking at, this is Jefferson.
Do we have a laser pointer? We'll need you to stay at the microphone, so he's got a laser. He can have you. Thank you.
Okay. Jefferson and 3rd Street. We're proposing that the project be built in 2 phases. And the first phase, this would be phase 1, which would be approximately 5,800 to 7,000 square feet of retail space. And the phase 1 would be this building, which would be a 4-story building. It's going to be full storefront like it was before, retail development on Jefferson and 3rd Street, and then 3 stories of housing on top of it. So it's going to be a very similar scale to what is there. And then we're planning in phase 1 of building the courtyard, and then we're going back to our permeable pavers in the alley, so there will be a new alley there. And then this north alley is land that we currently own. It's not public right-of-way. It'll have similar permeable pavers. Those materials didn't make it to the job yet, and so we have them and we can use them. They weren't destroyed.
Is that in correlation with the process that we were going through last year that we ended up not?
We have moved that to a different location for our project.
Okay.
And then on this portion would be the residential lobby of the building, so it'd be where you walk in to go up in the apartments. And according to a requirement we have to meet, which is HUD Section 106, we have to do an architectural mitigation in order to keep our CDBG grant. That involves conducting a study that determined that the TAMA building and C&E building were significant. That happened in January. It was accepted by everyone. That's done behind us. And then we need to meet with SHPO, CDBG, and the local historic commission and community development. And they won't meet until they re-award the project to us. So, however, we did a preliminary run-through with the Burlington Historic Commission, and I think the ideas that were talked about were acceptable, but we'll bring those back and then have those groups together and find a solution. What I'm not supposed to do is presuppose what to do on the design. It's a collaborative process. So we'll coordinate that and take care of that. So that's phase one. And then phase two would be completed after phase one construction is complete. And so the Davis-Bacon would apply to phase one, and then phase two is a similar building with similar retail space and 3 stories of housing on top of that, which is 24 more units. Eric, could we go to the rendering? And so this is a quick sketch of phase one, Jefferson, North 3rd, and phase two. And there's some decks and connecting links between the two buildings. So we'd have I think the courtyard space could be really cool and exciting and really contribute. We're proposing the color of the brick and the scale of the window openings be just what was there with the TAMA building. So TAMA building was a grand big building, and we're proposing the same sort of architecture in terms of size and shape. So that's kind of where we are in a nutshell.
Well, I'm glad you're there. This has been a long process, and
thank you.
Yeah, it just seems like just last week we were wondering when the building was going to get knocked down. So it's good to see the progress going, and I haven't given up on the project. I'm glad you haven't, and I'm just glad we're still pushing through. I like the rendering too.
So, quick question. Justin is going to be your construction manager locally?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we have any problems, we just call you on him.
Yes, please. Please.
Justin Meyer?
Well, I've got
You're talking about Justin Meyer, is that correct?
I've got his number. So
I just want to make sure the camera got that.
everybody understands that.
Justin Meyer?
What's the
Is that who you're
timeline?
talking about?
Start to finish?
An optimistic start is this fall, and the factors that I can't control are.
IDEA, I get it. Yeah. So.
And so it looks like an early spring start would be leaving today, if you're all thinking they're going to start construction early spring, I think that's safe. There's a chance we can get it going this fall. And what's nice about how we're talking about building the new buildings and prefabricating panels, it's a great winter job that could just go right through the winter if I can get those other governmental pieces in place.
But from when the first footing is laid to the end of phase two, what is that timeline?
I don't know exactly tonight. However, basically, I think phase one construction is approximately a year, and we haven't even talked about that yet. But,
That's total time for phase one?
For phase one.
And then phase two is probably another year, give or take.
I would say phase two is another year, and then CDBG requires us to finish the construction, close out the Davis-Bacon review.
And then come in and do phase two.
And get it fully rented, which is statistical 95%, which would happen right on the heels of opening. And then we start phase two. We're gonna do all the design work all at once, now.
But you're planning to do, I mean, we're going to do both phases. We're not
Planning-
gonna do phase one and then turn around and not do phase two, correct?
I'm planning to do phase one, then phase two.
Okay.
Council, any other questions?
48 units total, or is that just on one side?
48 in
4
24
and then
in
20.
phase one, and 24 in phase two.
Okay, okay, got it.
And there is going to be a cot for me down in the basement, that is correct?
Yes, yes.
Thanks for lying to me.
It's not gonna have a basement, is it?
Well, in the next week, it'll be filled with dirt next week, after that.
I say, you plan on dying, son?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for your patience with this
And
challenge.
thanks for your hard work. I know it hasn't been easy, but we definitely appreciate that. We'd like to see this come to fruition, so thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay. Mr. Tislin, anything in closing? Peanut butter.
Farmers Market, great honey and eggs and bird houses and all kinds of goodies this
right.
Thursday.
Counselor,
I'm not gonna embarrass you tonight.
I appreciate that, my friend.
welcome.
Bless your heart. And on that note, I'll squeeze the pig. Yeah, the only thing I have is that we got a visit today from Joyce Flynn, came to check us out and to see what was going on with our downtown, and we're still gonna have some other people coming in, taking a look. They have not forgotten about us, so for those that are struggling, that have some issues and are wondering, we know what's going on, and we're going to do everything that we can, fight, kick, and scream to get every dollar that we can possibly get to make sure that we can get you back in a position to where you are, where you feel that your situation has been resolved. So again, there's a lot of communities that have taken a hit, but I'm not the mayor of the other communities, I'm the mayor of this one. So this is what I care about, us getting some results here, and there are people that are thinking about us and checking in on us, and we're gonna hold their feet to the fire and make sure they put their money where their mouth is when it comes to take care of Burlington. So be encouraged on that, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yep, just don't forget that this is it Sunday? Yes, Father's Day is the Snake Alley Art Fair. So that happens kind of a little bit on Snake Alley still, but mostly up on that, up on the top of it. That's from 9 in the morning to 4, and just happy Father's Day to all the fathers, and no matter what kind you are. So, thank you.
Why'd you just look at me funny right before you said that? Hold on, turn that camera off for a minute there, sir. Counselor.
Beats baseball. Can't beat that drum enough. So if there's a game going on, it's a great opportunity to
Well
take in
said.
something that not a lot of communities have. Jim and I were in DC last week. I felt like a lot of those meetings went really well. So it was definitely worth our time to go on that trip.
Good deal.
Do we have radio this week?
Yeah, you have radio, right?
That was last week.
I will say it's nice to be able to hear Matt. The new improvements seem like they're working, so,
I'm just talking into the microphone.
well, it's nice to be able to hear you, so.
What'd you say?
Yeah, I got you.
Nick? Or anyone else back there? Okay,
Yeah.
so for,
So I dressed up for nothing? Is that what you're saying?
so with the flood efforts, we've been collecting costs, and I don't think we've got anywhere near final numbers of what's going on. But as we look at we've got some street repairs that need done with the heavy rain event that we had. Forestry had some cleanup. I don't know how much of that was, I think that must have been tied to the heavy rain event. We had damage out at the golf course from the rain event. Retaining wall down at the water treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plant. Sorry, Don. Are you the current, past, or future city manager, Don, by the way? I'm sorry. You do get, he gets mail with it listed in that. In regards to the rain event, that was probably the most significant cost that we had, estimate that we had on that, and I'm not sure how much has gone into that, but that's close to $200,000 in and of itself. In terms of the buildings between the auditorium, depot, and port, the auditorium's likely to cost more than the last time this happened, just because we had some additional damage that occurred. The floor and the main parquet floor is toast, similar to last time. Nick, you were saying a lot of the risers were damaged as well, which didn't happen last time that I know of. But we could see a damage estimate, it'll be several $100,000. Lift station, if it was similar to last time, would be about $150,000 in that neighborhood, and it's similar damage, so we'll see. That's a plus or minus. The hard items are getting close to $1 million for what we might see for overall costs. That's outside of the time that for staff. That doesn't. I didn't put right down the HESCOs that we bought, the sand that we bought, the conveyor belt to get that there in place or whatever, the pump to put it in 3 different times at least over this spring. When we get in our overtime and then regular time for cleanup, this is a big deal, and we haven't been listed yet. Everything I hear would say that we will end up being eligible for assistance on this, and we're documenting everything to make sure that we're in line to do it. But the process to go through reimbursement is typically, we start to see things anywhere from 6 months to a year down the road.
Jim, can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
I'm going to put your feet to the fire a little bit, but we lost 3 pumps. We just bought 2 of them, I think for right around 20 grand. I went down and surveyed the damage today. I'm assuming those pumps are no good. There's a fork truck down there that was. Okay. So are these things, are we going to?
Anything that's damaged in the flood is eligible for.
No, for reimbursement.
Yeah.
But my question is are we going to be putting in purchasing orders to get those things either repaired or replaced immediately so that we have them in the event that we have another large crust in August?
Depends.
We need a lot of that equipment.
It depends on what happens. No, we're not going to push on that way.
Okay.
This week, Nick, I know we've had other communities that have reached out and we're borrowing some pumps from. So it depends on timing of things as to whether you purchase or go out, but we're not in a panic mode over that part.
That's fine.
If we get to a spot where we have to be on a bigger rush, we will. But, as an example, we didn't have enough HESCOs coming into this season, and we reached a spot where we expedited an order, and we had them well in advance of when we needed it. And I would assume that we'll be, as time goes on, if there's a spot where we need to do that, we will. But we're not rushing a purchase of something. We want to make sure that we follow through our regular purchasing policies, and we need to make sure that we do it in a way that we can document for reimbursement.
Well, the reason why I asked is I wanted to make sure we had access to the things necessary in order to protect the riverfront in the event that we start the cleanup process and then we have another crust.
Yeah, if we have to rush it, it falls under then emergency efforts that we have to do, and we just have to wait until we're at a spot where we're at that. We're not there right now.
Sounds good.
One of the biggest things that impacts the downtown still that we haven't been able to address, and that's Don's plant, or the lift station, I'm sorry. You're looking, Don, to be able to hopefully get in there tomorrow to try to get to the motors, and you got about a 2-week give or take process to assess damage and try to get them back in. That's kind of a tentative timeline for when he should be able to get that lift station back online. Again, that's not a promise. That's a hope. When we haven't been down there to see, he has a pretty good idea what the damage is going to be, but until you get in there and you pull those pumps out and you see what the motors need for repairs, there isn't a guarantee on that. But that's something, as we move forward, that's probably one of the key time for that, about 2 weeks. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that affects people on a very direct basis for business continuity purposes. That's all I had.
Is enough?
Yeah, about to say, I think that's plenty. And it's a party, it's been official, Tom
2
Walsh
weeks
just
worth,
showed
I
up,
think,
so.
right? 2 weeks, that's 2 weeks worth?
Unfortunately, it's just tough.
Okay, we good to go?
I think so.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned, thank you, everybody. Good night.
Do you want me to go get my key or
No, Annie thinks she's got it.
not? Leave mine in my truck.
That's for you.
Oh, is it, I gotta keep that?
Yeah. I heard your daughter's.
Wait till I
nickname-
show my,
Yeah, I heard her nickname's Pig. Yeah.
she's gonna, yeah, she's gonna love it.